Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this series of videos, we are working on various labs that are designed for AZ 900 exam, which is the Microsoft Azure Fundamentals. And all those labs, they're really designed with the Microsoft Learning, and we have already completed first 14 different labs. And in this video, we're going to work on manage resource labs. And I'm going to give you the link to this particular lab instructions in my video, and also a link to this page where you have all the labs and the videos associated with them, so you can watch it if you need. So to get started with this lab, you need an active Azure subscription. If you don't have one, just go to portal.azure.com and sign up for one. For resource locks, there are a couple things that you need to understand. Delete lock, and there are two different kinds of lock that we're going to look at, and read lock versus delete lock. Okay, though the question would be which one is more restrictive, and we'll show you how to check that one out. And you might get a lab exercise on that one. Like, you may have to go during the exam to one of the resource group and actually have to perform this action, or there might be questions around it, like you have a lock and you want to delete a resource, what you can do and what you cannot do, that kind of stuff. Okay, so here what they're saying, just go to the Azure portal and create a new resource group called rgmylocks and deploy that in East to US. So let's just go to my Azure account, and let's go to the resource groups. You can search for resource group in here and it will show up, and this is the resource group. So let's just click on add, and add the name, and resource group, this is the name of the resource group, and East US is good. So I'm just gonna hit on review and create. Validation is successful. I'm gonna create the resource group, and that's about it. My resource group, my RG logs, it's now done, it's deployed. There's no resource, but the resource group is now created. So now you need to add a lock to the resource group. And how do you add a lock? It's pretty much you can lock any resource within Azure, and you will see for the most part under settings it will show up as lock. So I can click on lock over here, and now I can add lock. Okay, so you name the lock. Let's see what they're suggesting to do. uh, so delete resource group overview. So they're adding a delete lock, looks like. So value is the rg lock and then delete lock. So what delete lock means, that you will not be able to uh, delete any resources. Okay, meaning you will be still able to deploy, and let's prove that one. Okay, so let's just call it rg lock, and it's a delete lock. And then, well, let's do something. Let's actually deploy something before we add the lock. Okay, so come over here within the resource group. Let's just deploy something that doesn't take too long to deploy. So let's just see, click on add, and it looks like Azure is a little slow today. It's responding really slowly for me. Let's just refresh the page real quick, and I'm still inside my resource group, my RG logs, and look, this is still loading. It shouldn't take that long. Let me just try to click add here. It's still not working, so I'm just gonna, from here, maybe I'll just say IP address. Okay, let's see if I can deploy IP address quickly inside this resource group. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to give you a little bit more hands-on than what you have in the lab. A lab, they're really not deleting any resources. Uh, Here, they're actually creating a storage account and then try to delete that. So maybe instead of IP, let's just to be consistent with the lab, let's just create a storage account and just deploy one storage account inside this resource group before we add anything. So let's just select the resource group where we're gonna apply the lock. Okay, and storage test lock. Let's see, that name is available, and you don't need to worry about this lab is not for the storage account. So I'm just gonna create this one, and this is just going to be one resource that's deployed within this particular resource group. Okay, and let's see, the deployment is ongoing, and we can go back to the resource log again and kind of see what is going on. Lots of things are going on. All right, so while this is going on, let it be, let it deploy stuff. It's like it's just deployed right now. So let's go back. So now if you see, this storage account is now deployed under my RG logs resource group. And what will happen, it's kind of slow, but if you select the resource, you will be able to delete that particular resource at this time because I don't have any logs. Okay. If I now click on logs, okay, let's see if the log shows up. I'm sorry that Azure is so slow and I have no control on that one. How to fix? Okay, let's come back over here. Just kind of read what you have. So this is the storage account that we have already deployed. So what they're saying, with a delete lock, had you done this step before, you would still be able to deploy this resource group because you're only going to have a delete lock. But once you have a resource deployed, you will not be able to perform a delete operation. Okay, so let's come back over here, and in that lock, let's now add a delete lock. Okay, so I'm just gonna call it delete lock, and lock type I'm gonna choose delete, and then hit OK, and that's all it needs to be able to add a delete lock. So now if I go back to the resource group, let's see if the storage account shows up. It's still not showing up. uh, okay, so let it be like that. Let me see if I can just go to the storage account directly and see a listing of the storage accounts. I usually don't see too much of a problem with Azure uh, for the most part. Usually they respond very quickly, but for whatever reason today it seems like it's not going as quick as I usually see them respond. So here's the resource group. Okay, storage uh, storage test log. Okay, so if I click on that one, and if I try to delete this one, and here what, for any resource this is a common warning, so type, you have to say yes. Okay, so what you're trying to do here, you're trying to delete this resource, this storage resource which is deployed under these my rg logs, but unfortunately or fortunately you have a lock, a delete lock here. So if I click on delete, here's an error, execute delete command on one. Why? The scope, this, and then the real thing is in here, cannot perform delete operation because the following scope are locked. Okay, and now what you need to do, so if you really want to delete, then you have to go back to the resource group and remove the delete lock. So let's go back to the resource lock one more time, and what we'll do, we'll go to the logs. Okay, and see if the log shows up. And I do have a subscription that is like a trial subscription that I got from Microsoft. So I cannot complain too much if it's slow a little bit, because this account is free. There is no service level agreement really for anything that I'm doing right now. So let me go back to the resource group one more time. Let's open the resource group. Let's go to logs. Here's my logs. Am I in my logs? I'm still not in my logs. I'll try to go to another page. In none of the page this time, this page is trying to load. So go to locks again. Now I have the lock. Sorry that it's happening. So what I'll do, since this lock is there, I cannot delete the storage account. So now if I get rid of it, I have no locks. So if I want, I can go back to the storage account and try to delete, and it will delete my storage account. Now let's do one another lock. Let's call it a read lock. Okay, and the lock type is read only. So just remember, between the delete and read only lock is more restrictive, because here you cannot even deploy anything. And let's just to prove that, if it's fast enough, so let's go back to the resource group and let's try to add a new resource. Let me see if that's even possible, since this is such it's going so slow. And if it doesn't happen in from here, what I'll do, I'll go back to and maybe truly try to deploy a public IP resource inside this resource group and see. I'm choosing public IP because it shouldn't take too long to deploy. And what I would expect to see, since I have a read lock, it should block the deployment completely. So still taking time, so I'm going to refresh it one more time. Okay, and again I'm going to search for public IP address, and here I'm going to try to create a resource. Click on add, and what I'll do, everything is fine with me. Resource group is the rglocks, and name test IP, and here over, look at that, it's not even letting me do anything. It's just giving me a red warning, and this saying, hey buddy, this selected resource group is read only. So you cannot even choose that one, that resource group, if you want to deploy something. So hopefully this is now clear for you, what is the resource lock and how you use. The last thing that I wanted to show you is, don't think that you only have the resource lock available on the resource group only. So if you go inside the storage account that you have deployed, okay, so you can even lock this particular storage account. Okay, so just look for the lock. Here's the lock that is showed up, and right now if you see, you are getting the lock here added automatically, because this lock you have already applied to the resource group level. So if you apply to the resource group level, any resources that you deploy inside the resource group will automatically get that lock. Okay, but say you have 10 resources deployed inside one particular resource group, and you only want to make sure some of them you want to be locked, others you can delete. So instead of putting the lock on the resource group level, you can come down to the storage account, I mean the resource itself. For this case is the storage account, and apply the lock here. So what you would do, you'd go back, you'll go to the resource group, you go to the resource group that's in question, there's RG lock, you go to the locks, and when the lock shows up, you would remove that one, and then you will go back to the resource itself, which is the storage account, and apply the lock at that level. In that case, if you have another storage account, you will still able to delete that account, but for the account that's locked, you will not be able to do that. Okay, so play with this. It's not a very difficult concept to understand, but I would say that you probably will see lots of questions around where the lock is being applied, what kind of lock it is, and what you can do and what you cannot do. Like if it's a read only, can you start a virtual machine? Can you stop a virtual machine? Uh, that kind of stuff. So pay some attention and play with applying resource group, applying locks to some of the resources and on the resource groups, and just kind of get familiar with the behavior of what you can do and what you cannot. Okay, with that, good luck with the exam. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe for more videos, and leave your valuable comments so I can get better with my videos next time. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.